I am not a crook. Wait, are you sure about that?
Just the two of
I
us.
know. Can we do this on our own?
I know, we've had so many guests in the basement.
All
Actually,
right.
this is the first one we've done with the creepy backdrop.
With the creepy
The creepy
right?
wall backdrop. Just the two of
Right.
us. Just the brew of us. All right.
We don't have strength in numbers in this creepy setting.
In this episode of Chop and Brew, we're excited to have two very unique Spruce beers on the sampling table. Spruce Double IPA from Black List Brewing, brewed with fresh spruce tips and fennel steeped in the whirlpool. And Einstök Winter Ale, brewed with whiskey-cured spruce tips and smoked Icelandic malt. We'll taste them and talk about these fun approaches to brewing with spruce. Before we get into it, a quick reminder that all Fitty and Chips beer reviews are brought to you with support from Imperial Yeast and its last call at your favorite homebrew supplier for their limited edition L25 Huga Danish lager strain. And our very sprucey Patreon party people. Join them at patreon.com/chopandbrew.
What up, everybody? It's Chip and
Fitty.
we're in the basement of
Fitty's basement. Thomas Lick. Oh yeah, there. Yeah. Okay.
of Thomas Liquors.
Oh, I
mean, it is your
I
basement.
don't. Yeah, kinda.
You should see all of his stuff.
Right.
VHS and cassette tapes. We're doing a tasting of two very unique and special spruce beers. Beers that involve spruce in them, spruce tips. We tried to do this around Christmas and things just kind of spiral out of control. So,
Christmas season.
but it's still winter. I literally just took
is.
out the Christmas tree in our house yesterday and was smelling the little towel that it was on because I was like, oh, I missed you, Christmas tree.
Oh.
Still smells very sprucey.
Okay.
It's a weird thing to admit.
Yeah, I
in
was
a
gonna
video.
say. Because I get pretty weird pretty fast.
Anyway, spruce tip beers, two very different. We've got one from Minnesota, Black List Spruce Double IPA. And then Fitty pulled this out, and I was just mind blown. Icelandic Winter Ale from
Einstök.
Awesome. I don't know which one to start with because they're both fairly high ABV and they're both very characterful. I would say the Blacklist, just because it's
Yeah, but you're right.
somewhat lighter.
I don't think there's gonna be a massive contrast where it's really the one's gonna throw off the other.
Cheers.
Cheers, Chipper. Look at us just hanging out here on our lonesome. No guests
Hanging out
this
like
week.
Wayne and Garth in the basement. Double IPA with fresh spruce tips and a touch of fennel steeped in the whirlpool. Aged on medium toast white American oak. Light sweetness vaguely suggesting honey, light fruit, light pepper notes, hint of toasted malt. That's what they say.
That's okay. But
What do you say?
what do we say?
Yeah.
Yeah, what do we say? And I would say this, to be fair, this still drinking as it should, but it's not super fresh. So I think a little bit of the hot bitterness has tapered off a little bit, but still a really good example of what this unique beer is.
Yeah,
and
like
you
a-
can get all the
It's
elements.
kind of turned into like a pale stock ale of some sort. Like it's got the strength. I get the citrusy. You know, the thing about spruce tips is you want to think pine tree, Christmas tree. They say fresh. I don't know what time of year, but if it's in the spring, like a lot of people do, it's more of the citrusy lemon lime when they're feathery. They're
Okay,
literally
yeah,
like
yeah,
feathery.
right.
They're
Okay,
the ones
gotcha.
that you see sprouting
Sure.
off the tree.
Yep.
Versus I've had other beers and made other beers with like breaking off a thick woody branch with the blue.
Well, and then you
needles.
get some kind of tannic character from the branches and stuff, and that's gonna, I think, really skew with the fresh needle character.
I just get this like lovely kind of piney, honey malted, kind of like honey sweet. The bitterness is faded, but I would say the hop flavor is definitely still in the house.
for sure. Yeah.
And the ABV
yeah.
is kind of carrying the top
Yep.
part where the
Yep.
hops
I
might
agree.
be a little
I
lacking.
agree. I'm getting a noticeable heat going on. What'd you say, 8.5 or so on ABV?
9.5.
Oh, complex as hell, always. But yeah, the spruce, the hops, kind of that honey thing, the alcoholic heat. There's some malt going on, like you said, a touch of honeyness in the honeyness.
Honeyness.
Going on there on the palate.
Fennel?
I don't get
know.
that.
I mean, I know what fennel seeds are. You're thinking like tomato sauce, lasagna. I'm betting this is more like shaved fennel bulb, just going out on a limb where it wouldn't probably be that.
You know the ingredient so much better than I do. And fennel, I think of akavit,
Oh.
which usually has a flavor, that black licorice sort of thing that isn't not
that's
my
right.
jam.
Those have fennel or dill or some of those more like
Or all of
woody
them.
seed
Yeah,
spices.
yeah.
Or all of them. That's true.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, let's come back to it. We can kind of come back and compare, but still, I think drinking very lovely.
Sure. It's a really cool beer.
Yeah, the spruce, I think, has not hit you over the head, which you never want because now you're drinking like turpentine. Or
Right,
something like
and
that.
it's one of those delicate flavors.
Pine
Kind
sol.
of like, you know, kind of like when you're brewing with cayenne or habanero or anything of those peppers. Not quite to that extreme, but still a delicate flavor, easily to overdo and make it a hot mess with just a little bit too much of the spruce.
The Icelandic Winter Ale from Einstök. Man, I love this description. In Iceland, winter is not something we fear, it is something we embrace, especially when it signals the return of our limited edition Winter Ale, brewed with hand-cut and whiskey-cured spruce.
Damn.
What? And smoked,
right?
and smoked Icelandic barley. So we got, shout out to This Week in Route Beer, we've got us a smoked beer that's also a spruce beer. This ale perfectly complements your sagas of conquest and survival during the harsh winter months.
You know what? So appropriate that we got a Duluth beer and Icelandic beer.
8% alcohol, smoked Icelandic barley, pale.
Skål, Vikings!
Skål!
Hey, let's wait until next year.
Smoked Icelandic barley, pale ale malt, crystal malt, chocolate malt, Bavarian hops, Icelandic spruce tips, and I don't even know what whiskey cured mean. I understand what whiskey soaked, but I don't know what whiskey cured. Probably means the same thing, just
That's what I'm
sat
guessing.
in whiskey.
That's what I'm guessing. You cure it in whiskey and then let it dry and then
Maybe.
mulch it all up.
Could be that, or it could
Or
be
put it
more
in your-
like almost
or
like
put
a
it in your
tincture
grinder.
where they just let it all hang out and then they dip it all. Like when you brew, sometimes you put cacao nibs or habanero in some neutral grain spirit, and then you just dump the whole thing in. Like
Oh, really?
some, or strain it. They say smoky pine and whiskey notes bring out the full-bodied flavor, guaranteed satisfaction, smooth and smoky finish. I mean, you get it on the nose.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially versus
Smoke
this
everything.
one.
Yep.
Like there is
Yep.
a smoky, like a very woody, comforting aroma.
It's pretty creative. Whoever came up with this recipe.
It's very
What they're
wintry.
coming
It's very like sitting around a fire.
Mm-hmm. It's sort of like is it plummy, berry, sort of?
No,
Unless I'm just making shit up, because that happens once in a while. That
no,
happens
I
a
think
lot.
it's got this very big, raisiny. The booze and the smoke both, I think, do a little bit of this kind of slicking of the palate, almost a little numbing. Because smoke can do that, I think. They say pairs well with smoked lamb and pork and dark chocolate, complements traditional dishes such as something I can't pronounce and something else I can't pronounce.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, H-bomb!
I am. We're speaking in Icelandic today.
Icelandic?
Yeah, tell du Icelandic.
Nej.
Yeah, tell du svenska.
Ja.
Ja. And for the people here, what would you say in svenska?
Hej, hur mår du? Hej då.
Okay, ursäkta mig.
Ursäkta mig, hej då.
Det är nada.
That's our Huga representative from the nation of Huga. Yeah, this is just very, they call it a winter ale. It seems like it's got winter warmer roots, but with these other flavors, the juniper or the spruce. I feel as it gets warmer, the smoke really comes out.
I bet. I would expect that.
Again, even more kind of like, numbing is the wrong word, but it definitely is like making the tongue smoky. You don't get as much of that kind of sweet cover.
Yeah, I mean, I think winter warmer is a really appropriate name for this style of what's going on. Of course, you don't have much smoke character in a lot of winter warmers, but smoke and winter are compatible.
Yeah.
And then with this spice, which almost that's a beautiful color. That deep copper.
You know what I like to do? I always like to go back and forth. So now you come back to this. There's like a big orangey, citrusy, probably from the hops, but also those spruce tips.
Oh, yep. Oh, that's a really good comparison. And then once you get off the smoke train,
The hops. You can feel the hops more when you come back to it from something that is more malty, smoky, spicy a little bit.
Fruit and hops.
Yep.
Yeah. Definitely.
Oh, Professor Fruit and Hops.
He was great in high school.
Yeah. No, those are two totally different takes. For anybody that doesn't know, Chop and Brew is a show. We've done an episode on making spruce tip simple syrup, which is great.
Ooh,
everything
that
from
could be cool.
just coffee sweetener to cocktails. A G&T with the spruce tip syrup is bonkers. And then we fermented that into a beverage that we called spruce tip wine that basically tastes like homemade Zima, but better.
How do you get better than homemade Zima?
And the other thing I kind of took note mentally as I was driving is like, there's this homebrew competition that's based out of the Twin Cities, second year coming up in February. It's called Deja Brew, and it only accepts kind of forgotten, historical, and lost styles. And this Einstök falls right. I mean, I doubt that that's a traditional style, but that's definitely a traditional ingredient, that smoked barley. The spruce / juniper / just something coniferous.
Oh, it's
that the
an
right
awesome word. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. You know what I just thought of? Sati.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And Ven has a Sati.
Which runs through juniper, if I remember correctly.
Is
could be spruce. I
Okay,
think
sure.
the idea
Yeah,
is like
I'm not
it's
sure.
some kind of
But it's not hops.
indigenous. Yeah, if there's hops at all,
Or over
they're low, but I don't.
Okay,
think there's many.
They probably use a bit of hops, but I just thought of that. I was like,
The one time I saw one be made in person, I think it was juniper, much like the Norwegian stuff I've had.
Okay.
That Michael Agnew foraged from an undisclosed location in Minneapolis.
Really?
That's all I remember he said. Yeah, and they put like the juniper boughs, could be spruce. I'm gonna stick by juniper.
Yeah.
They put those boughs at the bottom of the mash tun, so now your whole beer, it both acts as a filter but a flavoring agent.
Oh, sure.
As all of that work comes through it, almost like infusing it.
Exactly. You know,
on
it
its
sounds
way to
like, when they make gin and then the vapors go through the mesh and the botanicals. And so same thing. The liquid just filters through.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, 2 spruce beers with Fitty in the basement of Thomas Liquors. If you know of a spruce beer that we should check out,
let us know in the comments.
There's at least 2 others I had this past winter. I'm drawing a blank, but it's not an unheard of ingredient, especially here.
Sure.
In Minnesota.
Yeah.
Because there's just up north forest vibes.
Exactly.
Super quick before we wrap up. You said Einstök actually does fairly well for an Icelandic brewery
They do.
distributing to Minnesota.
And it's not.
What are their other beers besides this winter ale?
They've got a toasted porter, a wee heavy, right?
Toasted porter?
Yeah, dude.
Okay.
A wee heavy, white ale, pale ale, and it might be one and occasionally a doppelbock because you'll have some limited releases coming out throughout the year too.
Dude.
But all the ones I've had, they've been great, and they've had a decent following, at least here at our store. And when you think of it, it's like the import category, come see, come saw. I mean, it's always been on the decline for years, and especially coming from Iceland, it's not German, it's not English, your typical places for imports, and it's gotten a pretty decent following. I've been happy with the beer itself and the sales.
Well, maybe we'll do a little trio tasting at some point when you get like a good shipment of, like if we did like a white, a doppelbock, and something very diverse.
For sure. Yeah, and
That's
they
super
right,
cool.
and then you come up with
Toasted porter's got to be in there. I don't even know what that means. I'm gonna look it up. I assume it means a toasted
malt.
But God knows they might toast some weird woodland nut from
Possibly.
Iceland.
It's Iceland. Maybe it's
Have y'all ever heard of the Schlugen nut?
All the volcano smoked stuff.
We smoked it on hot lava and we put it in your beer. All right, now we're getting borderline.
Well, we always do.
Yeah,
Well, that's actually pretty tame. You know why? Because we don't have a third.
Stereotypical. Yeah, there's no third to for us to focus our energy on.
Yeah, right. It's just us and our own thoughts, crazy thoughts. Hey, Chipper. Wonder Twin Powers.
Activate.
Oh! Jesus.
Oh my god, look at the dust coming out. It's like mushroom spores coming out of that thing, dude.
It's an authentic basement.